But that's really ultimately what it gets back to, is making sure that there's quality in everything that we're doing from a delivery perspective.
Welcome to episode 229 of the Pathways to Success, where we have conversations with inspiring leaders about their business and keys to success. I'm Julian Placino, your host, and we have an outstanding show in store for you today. It is my pleasure to welcome the Global President and COO at Ryan, Ginny Kissling. Ginny, welcome to the Pathways to Success. How are you?
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. We finally made it happen.
After a year in the making, yeah, truly.
Found the perfect venue for this with our intern retreat. So thank you for your patience as we put together the perfect group for this. So thanks.
Absolutely. Excited to dig in and learn more about your story. So Ginny, you are, of course, the Global President and COO at Ryan. For anyone who's never heard of Ryan before, tell us, give us some context. What is Ryan?
Sure. So Ryan is a global tax services and software company. We focus on helping corporate taxpayers minimize their tax burden, and we live our purpose every day. So our purpose is to liberate our clients from the burden of being overtaxed, freeing their capital to invest, grow, and thrive. And that's a lot of words. I get all of that, but there's a lot of intentionality with regard to our purpose. So whether it's minimizing the tax dollars that they pay, which is a burden, or whether it's minimizing the compliance aspects of their job, it's really to help to help companies minimize their tax, minimize that burden, to make it more efficient for them. Because it shouldn't be chaotic, it shouldn't be concerning, it should be something that they can be able to do and do it effectively, and focus a lot on planning and strategies for the future.
Gotcha. So what do you think makes Ryan stand out as an organization? What is uniquely valuable about the company, would you say?
Sure. In my 32-year history, we have grown tremendously. And to see what we are today, and to see how it's been articulated today and how clear it is for all of us today, it's very simple. I mean, there's two things. It's living our purpose, which I've already said, and the second is our culture. And you see that in everything that we do. Everything that we do has focused on those two aspects. And that transparency is very clear. So our purpose is all about our clients, and it's so important to us in how we serve our clients that we actually survey Julian. So we survey our clients to figure out and ask them regularly, how is our team doing? How can they do better? What is it that you enjoy working with Ryan? And we have done that for over 20 years. So getting that feedback to know how we can do a better job is so important. It's part of our fabric of success. And living our purpose, of course, to minimize their burdens from tax. So the second aspect being our culture is so important as well, and that's focusing on you, everyone in this room, the 124 record count here of interns that we have, and the rest of our company, which is 5,000 team members across the globe. And that's an important thing to pick up. I don't know if you all caught that, but I said team members. We don't refer to all of you, everyone in this room, as an employee. We're one team, we're one Ryan, and we're in this together. So that's another distinction. Just there's little things, subtleties in what we do and how we operate. And our team member experience is so important that guess what? We survey you guys too. We want to not only surveying our clients, but we found throughout the years with the surveys of our clients to see what their satisfaction ratings are. We said, why don't we apply that to our internal team? And those metrics are so important, Jillian, that we measure it regularly. We report on it every month. So every month, the transparency that you guys see is what's our client survey results and what's our team member experience results. And we make sure that those are high. We read every one of those feedback surveys and see how we can do better, because we want to invest in that. If our team members are happy, our clients are going to be happy, and all of that will pay rewards for us in the future.
And you know, one of the words that I keep hearing consistent in your language, in the language of your team, are your values and principles. And I know that generosity is one of the key values of Ryan. So give us a bit of context. I know there's like a volunteer event here. What role does generosity play in how you execute the business?
You know, we anchor everything that we do in our purpose statement, and that's followed by our values. And one of our 5 values is generosity matters. It's important to give back to the community and share in our success. And I loved that. When I walked into the intern retreat, I saw on the back table here that there was jars of peanut butter. And I took a second glance and I thought, is the peanut butter for you guys to enjoy here, along with our snacks that we have back there? And it's not, of course not. It's what a peanut butter drive that our recruiting group put together today to have you guys join in our generosity, sharing our success. And it's so important to me individually and so many other team members at Ryan, and especially those in leadership positions, to give back, that we serve in leadership roles within our community. So personally, I'm incoming chair of the North Texas Food Bank. And so that is a fantastic community here that gives back to our hungry neighbors. And we've got 13 counties that we participate in. So it's a fantastic operation, understanding what that is all about. And for me, if I'm going to be engaged in it, I want to be really engaged in it. So for me, I raised my hand very quickly and said, that's where I want my track to go, is to ultimately be the chair of that. So it's really a huge fabric of who we are as an organization. They had a networking event here with the interns that was a community, a charity event here. We'd have Ryan Shares Day, so all of you save your calendar for that. You save the date, you should have that, that you guys actually serve the community. So it is July the 12th. It is the one day across the globe, all Ryan offices have that day to serve the community. It's paid time for those that need it. And if there's not client work to do, clients are going to come first. But if so, we try to plan around that and make sure that we can actually serve all of you. Put your hands there together to serve our community. So for the Dallas office, I know we're going to the food bank and we're going to be sorting food. And for every other Ryan office, you would have that availability too. So it's important to us not only to lead by example for me, but also for you to have those opportunities to serve the community too and live that value.
I love that, the tremendous social impact you make in addition to running a great business.
Exactly. So it's all about sharing our success.
Yeah, I love that. So Ginny, I want to learn a little bit more about your role here at Ryan. So this has been a year in the making, and they keep Ginny very much protected. And when I finally was able to have the pre-interview with Ginny, every 5 minutes of her calendar was fully blocked. And Jillian does an amazing job of managing Ginny and her calendar and all that. But with that being said, peel back the curtain a bit. As the Global President and COO, what are you responsible for here at Ryan?
Sure. So I view it as I wear three hats. One hat is going to be the global president aspect of it, which basically means those revenue generating groups that report to me, whether it's U.S. service delivery, Canada service delivery, or the Europe, Asia Pacific service delivery group. They're working with me and they've got goals. They've got revenue goals, EBITDA goals, client service results, and team member experience goals that we're measuring on a regular basis. So that's what we're doing there from the service delivery perspective, the global president role. That's one hat, is all the revenue side of the house and operations side. The second one is our shared services group. So thinking CFO, CLO, IT, all of that group in general is what I'm working on. So it's an interesting dynamic. And the third, which is also very fun for me and something that I just can't let go, is client work. I love interacting with our clients and solving the problems that they have from a tax perspective. Even this week, we have a suite at the Ranger Stadium, and I was able to host clients there, and we did it. It was an afternoon game, and they had their team come, and it was so much fun because they used it as a team building event. I used it, of course, as a networking event. And I was like, I'm not going to go talk shop. It's just for fun, right? It's just to hang out and get to know each other and build that relationship. And that's what I get to do regularly. So that's the third hat. But it's interesting because it's constantly shifting gears all day long about, I've got to go, one meeting is going to be about, service delivery. Next will be about shared services. Next will be about client stuff. It's always shifting gears, but that kind of was scary in the beginning, and then I mastered that. And with regard to my calendar, yes, it's a tough one. One of my secrets, though, that I'll tell you guys today is I don't block on Fridays. I don't book anything on Fridays. This is special here today. But I use that for the time for me to get caught up, to do those things that are really important. Those wildly important goals are so important. So I block Fridays to do that. And that's how I'm able to kind of catch up and do those more strategic aspects of my job as well. And for you, thank you for your patience. For me, I wanted to find something that was really the perfect fit, and this is a great twofer because, I love to speak to the interns, being the first intern at Ryan. I love to speak to this group, and to having you here today, doing it as a podcast is just icing on the cake. It's perfect. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yeah, I'm glad this finally happened, and it seems like you have many different hats, and you're very intentional with your time, and that's great insight to share. So of course, this is an event for the interns. Interns are very much early in their career. So what is the inspiring vision of the future for Ryan? What do you see for the future of Ryan?
It is an exciting time here. We are focused on technology. Technology is such a huge part of where we are as an organization. And what I mean by that is looking at our commercial products. That's one aspect of it. So the systems that we are not only using internally to deliver tax services for our clients, but we also can sell those products, those software products, to our clients as well. And even competitors, interestingly enough. So if it's something that we're using internally to deliver property tax services, it's something that those that haven't hired us for property tax, even competitors can do that. So it's interesting when you see that. So we're investing in the product not only for our own benefit, but also to have commercially viable products. Interestingly, I was trying to think of examples here to tell you guys about what the tax world is like, because it's not advanced. It's really kind of it's not, and like everything, it's changing. You've got AI, you've got data, using data, all of that is evolving in the tax world. But one simple example that we recently tackled was in California. They didn't allow digital signatures for property tax. I mean, really? We've been using digital signatures for a long time. So we ended up working with them on implementing a way to solve this problem with the taxing authority, ways that would make our lives easier, to make our clients' lives easier, to make it so that there could be a better process to be compliant from a tax perspective. And that may seem kind of simple to you guys. It's like, well, of course, why wouldn't they do that? But if we're working with the taxing authority to bring those more advanced systems in there, it helps us, it helps others, and it's overall just the right thing to do. So there's a lot that's going on. My excitement really is more surrounded about the technology aspect. We recently hired a chief technology and data officer, very excited to have that role. Also hired a chief data officer that's helping us. So there's a huge investment within Ryan, not only from a people perspective, but from a product perspective, to ensure that we're making those better from an operating perspective. And it's also, this is the last point with this, the interesting part of that too is how we engage with the taxing authorities. And one thing that we implemented last year was I've talked a lot about pledges, or a lot about surveys, so we survey our team members, we survey our clients. Well, guess what? We survey the taxing authority as well. And that you may go, really? So, your adversary? Well, yes, we do, because we want to make sure that we're listening to them of how we can do better engaging with them. And we have learned so much through those surveys of how we can better optimize that time and provide better solutions as well. So technology is the answer of the future here at Ryan.
So I heard a lot of innovation through product and technology.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So Ginny, before we get to know you a little bit more just as a person and as a human being, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about Ryan?
It's this group here. I am so excited about our intern team. I am so excited about paying it forward and the future, the successors of our organization. You are the future of Ryan, and to me, it's a huge investment of your time and investment of our team members, just to make sure that we're bringing up those future leaders within our organization. So that would probably be it. I love what we do here from our recruiting perspective. In the U.S., we have this is mainly U.S. team members that are internships, but we're investing as well from a Canada perspective. I know we've got Dort here from Portugal to see how we're doing this from a U.S. perspective, to see how we can do it more in Portugal and our Europe, Asia, Pacific operations. So that's it.
That's it. Yeah. The future is you all.
Yes.
So, okay. So Ginny, let's learn a little bit more about you as a person. So where are you from, and what was it like growing up there?
Sure. I grew up in Arlington, Texas, which is right outside of Dallas here. And I'm a first-generation college student. And I knew it was it's funny to look back on that story. I don't know if you guys have had that one teacher that kind of drove you crazy, and it was my accounting teacher. And she was so tough. And so I had her my junior year in high school, and she was so tough. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm going to do good in this class. So I did. It drove me to do really, to excel in the class. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to take her second class because she's so tough, I'm going to do it again. So I took accounting too, and I just loved it. It was a great learning lesson for me, and that really charted the course for what I knew I wanted to do, which was always to get my master's in tax. So there we go. I went to UNT in Denton and ended up getting my master's in tax. And I sat next to someone in one of my senior level classes who happened to know Brent, our CEO, introduced me to him. And I was like, hey, she's looking for a job, because keep in mind, I worked at Black Eyed Pea. I was waiting tables for 4 years in college. So like many of you, that's just what you got to do. And it paid really well. And I was actually quite nervous because, okay, I can take my Black Eyed Pea job, which I can finish, throughout college, or I can go get my internship. But I knew, like you guys in this room, I had to get experience. I needed to have that experience. I wanted to have that experience so I could see what my life was going to look like after that. So that's what I did. I ended up joining Ryan, employee number 7. I call that lucky number 7. And the rest is history. So that's how it all began.
Wow, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. So one of the things that I want to hopefully tease out here are, what are the significant experiences that Ginny went through that really set her on this trajectory? One of the things that I heard is that she had an influential person, her teacher, that inspired a vision for her future and helped her discover the things that she liked and was good at. So what's the lesson there, Ginny? How can people be more intentional about acquiring mentors and learning from them?
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a book that, The Year of Yes is Shonda Rhimes' book. And it's really about taking chances. And so for those of you that haven't read it, I highly recommend that book. And it's about taking chances. It's raising your hands for opportunities that are out there. It's seeking insights. And so for those that you can learn from, don't be afraid to say, hey, I'd like to understand a little bit more about your role. I'd like to understand about how that applies to me and how I can be successful. So I think it's really reaching out. And Year of Yes is all about trying things that are new and different, and being more intentional in those interactions. So, and I did that without really realizing it. And one example of that is Institute for Professionals in Tax. It's a tax association out there, professional organization, to learn more about what we do. And I remember joining that organization, going to one of their annual conferences, and I remember sitting in the room and I thought, well, gosh, I want to be more engaged here. And no one at Ryan said, hey, if you want to be engaged, this is what you go do. I just sat there in the room and said, wait a minute, the guy standing at the podium, he's leading the organization. I'm going to go talk to him, Billy Cook at the time. And I said, Billy, I'm at Ryan. I'd like to get more engaged. What can I do? Oh, well, you can go do this, this, and this. So it's really taking a chance, putting yourself out there, and being engaged, seeking those insights. Yes.
Gotcha. Being proactive, being engaged, being intentional about asking. Okay. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm always fascinated about is why. What motivates the human person to achieve great success? You mentioned during our pre-interview conversation that you lived in an environment that inspired desire. What does that mean?
Yes, I was always very independent, and I wanted to succeed on my own. I didn't want to be dependent on anybody else to provide what I needed and where I was going. So a very independent, fiery spirit from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that's really what got me to going to UNT and getting my master's in tax. So for me, it was just inspiring success. I mean, I knew it was so funny. I think back to my college days. My goal at the time was to make $50,000 a year and drive an Audi. And obviously putting that in perspective, that was a long time ago, 32 years ago or so, 35 years ago. That was my goal. And I look back on that, Julian, I've never had an Audi. Now, I've had plenty of other sports cars and other types of vehicles. But, my point of that is for all of you in this room, you've got a goal, right? You have set yourself, you have charted your success of where you see yourself in 5 years, where you see yourself in 10 years. And that's important for you to think about that, because as you think about where you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years and say, is what I'm doing going to get me there, right? And also think about, you and I talked about this before, about what brings you joy. What should your path be? Because for me, I was overanalyzing everything. I knew I liked accounting, so that was something I enjoyed, but I took these assessments when I was in college, those career assessments. And I was always I took a career assessment in high school, I did it again in college, because I was trying to figure out who I am and where my skills lie, where that kind of fit. And here I am today. So it all did kind of align, and I followed that thread. But I would say to this group, think about where you see yourself in 5 and 10 years, and what is it you're doing, and is that building upon that?
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's begin to kind of carve out the path. So I want you to take us back to part of your great story and how I think unique this is that you were the first ever intern at Ryan. So Ginny literally was walking in your shoes. There was a path. She did certain things to get from where you are to where she is right now. So What do you remember it being like as the first intern back in the day?
I remember I wanted to know everything all at once yesterday. I remember that it was, it couldn't happen fast enough, right? My learning couldn't happen fast enough. And I remembered that I needed to have patience. So that was the number one aspect of it as I sit in your, as I was sitting in your chair, having patience of what it is that I was doing and how it all played together. And the thing that was frustrating to me is I would come into a project at stage 10 and I wanted to come in at stage 1 and go 1, 2, 3, and I wanted to see the whole, life cycle, but it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. You come in at different points of the project. So, but I would say here, it's to have patience in what you're doing, but asking lots of questions. But I think the key to success too, if it was the one thing that I would ask you guys, probably two things. One would be have patience, but the number two would be have open communication with your manager. Because when you have curiosity, and you will have curiosity of why this, why that, how does this fit together? I see this part of it, but da-da-da-da, go and write down those questions. And don't be in your manager's office every day asking those questions or every hour asking those questions, but maybe say to your manager, I've got questions as I go along with this process. Should I meet with you, every day at noon? Should we check in once a week? What should those check-ins be for those communication points so that you're able to have that two-way dialogue? Because what you wouldn't want to do is end up 5 days into a project and find out on day 5 that you're doing something, you're going in a wrong direction. Right? So regular check-ins, open communication. Nothing frustrates me more than people come in and resign and we haven't even talked about areas that they aren't happy in. That's so disappointing because when you hire people, you nurture them, you coach them, you're getting them through everything, and then boom, they come in and say, I'm not happy, I'm leaving, and I'm gonna go, da-da-da-da. I'm like, whoa, what happened? I would have loved it if you would have come talk to me, at the time that you were having these doubts or having these concerns so we could work through them and say, I enjoy this better, or I'm struggling here. Those are aspects that I think are so important for people in the room, is to make sure you're having regular communication throughout that process.
So what I heard there was for sure patience.
Patience.
It was curiosity.
Yep.
And then actually taking control of your own development by having a proactive approach with your managers, with your peers, to be able to ask for feedback and continue that trajectory.
Absolutely, and I love the curiosity aspect of it. And I think that, if you're here at Ryan, you've got that curiosity, you've got that. It's a trait that we're absolutely hiring for. And the generations, you guys, it's so impressive. I sat at the intern dinner last night, and I sat at so many different tables, and I got asked so many different questions. The curiosity, you guys have it here, and it's so exciting to see and witness, because that's going to be the key. That's, again, the future here of Ryan, is having that curiosity, connecting those dots, and especially around technology.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep.
So I know one of the things that you said that really set you apart was you volunteered to take on projects. Tell us more about that, and how did that benefit your career?
That is something I did. It's fascinating to kind of think back over the 32-year career and how it transpired, because I think it is so important when you are in a position that you are the master of your craft. And you're like, okay, so what does that mean? Master of your craft here at Ryan is going to mean, okay, if you're a property tax consultant, understand Texas. Okay, I'm a property tax consultant in Texas. What is the tax laws? What are the tax rules? What are the guidelines that there may be out there? What are our systems? So not only understanding the tax and the rules, right? So that the technical aspects of the job, understanding those very clearly, being a master of that, but also as being a master of the systems. So, a master at Outlook, a master at Zoom. It's interesting, I think back to COVID. In the COVID world, that thrust us all into understanding Zoom and Teams and being able to host meetings. I was the host of meetings that I'd never really done before with clients, because all of our meetings before then were in person or a phone call. And so now we're having to do, you got Zoom boxes. Well, how does your name appear? All these things. So master of the systems for me at that time meant that I took 2 hours of Zoom training. If I'm going to host a meeting, I want to make sure I understand how to know those systems. Back in the day, Excel, all of those trainings, and you have access to that. At Ryan, you have access to LinkedIn Learning. That's 6,000 courses that you have access to. So if you want to brush up on Outlook and make sure that you're really strong at Outlook, make sure you're really strong at Excel, Alteryx, whatever those may be, learn those systems and be the best of them. So technical system excellence, or technical excellence, and then the systems excellence. Those are two incredibly important parts of success.
Yeah, one thing that I heard you say quite often was be the best at what you were hired to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really a simple way to say it. Be the best at what you've been hired to do.
So
yes.
become an expert at what it is that you're doing, no matter, it's sort of like doing the best with what you have where you are.
Yeah.
And you kind of begin to attract opportunity and find better tools along the way.
And I would tell you one reason why I'm in this seat today at Global President and COO is because once I was hired, I was the best at what I was hired to do. Mm-hmm. And what that means in the manager ranks is my revenue numbers were high, my client survey results were high, and my team member experience results were high. So again, going back to the common thread at Ryan, I was excelling in all three of our key metrics when I was a manager, and I did consistently. And I would always raise my hand because it wasn't enough because I wanted to do something extra. So I think back to our 15-year anniversary. Back then we were a much smaller organization. We did a trip with all of our team members and their families, and we went to Florida for our anniversary. And so I raised my hand and said, I want to be in charge of that budget, and I want to work with the event planner to plan it. So I planned the whole thing from start to finish. And guys, I'm not a party planner. My master's in tax, and I'm a tax person. But again, I was the best at what I've been hired to do. I raised my hand for a special project that was outside of my realm. And what I was finding over my career is I was always asking for something more, right? Once I knew I was meeting my key metrics, I raised my hand to say, hey, I'd like to pick up something new. Let me go do this. Can I do that? Is there some other special project? And so there were many opportunities. And at the moment, I didn't realize it, right? The significance of what I was doing and how that would impact my future career. But ultimately seeing a pattern of that, that's what led ultimately our CEO to tap me on the shoulder to take on all of the various leadership roles that I have over my career.
I love that.
Yep.
So before we close out with a few very prescriptive keys to success that you'd like to share with our audience, was there anything else about your career coming up that you did uniquely differently or shaped your personality or character? Anything else there?
I don't remember what we talked about there. What was it? There's so many situations at Ryan. Gosh, I'm kind of on the hit on the fly on that one. I think we've hit all those key topics.
Okay.
I think we've hit all the key topics that I wanted to go over with that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's jump into this then. One of the things that you're very passionate about speaking on is you've got to always be engaged and have a great attitude. Now, we've all heard that before. So let's rise above that sort of platitude, right? But what's the key to being engaged and having a great attitude amidst adversity and challenges?
Oh, yes. So, part of it, I think back, one of my favorite stories, one of my clients that I went to, it was early in my career, and very early in my career, and I was so excited to go to this client. Told my whole family I was going out to this client. It was a candy manufacturer. And so how cool is that to go to a candy manufacturer? And so I remember I dressed up in a suit and my high heels, and then lo and behold, that whole week I was a copy clerk. And I was like, oh my gosh. But we ended up getting a temp, and that was really made life easier. Now it doesn't happen that way, by the way. We're all images, so much, not as much paper. But I remember saying at the end of the day, it was part of mastering my craft. It was being the best at what I needed to do. And so once I ended up doing that, had the copy clerk job for a week, did it for a couple more field trips after that. Ultimately, I was able to hire a temp. And so, but it was so important then with the copying, because if you didn't copy the tax right, I know this sounds silly, but if you didn't copy the tax on the invoice, you wasted your whole field work. So much of it was understanding what the importance of those aspects, those work products. And it's funny because I incorporate all of this into my presentations. So we have an annual firm meeting. And I try to put stories into my annual firm meeting. And one of the annual firm meetings was about the importance of a recipe. And I remember putting a picture up there of me and my kids. I love to bring my kids into this, which was us baking cookies at the holiday. And so, and it's important to have a recipe. So that really goes into the work plan. It goes into knowing everything about it. So when you guys go back and you're working with your team, you should say, what's the work plan? What's the steps for us to do these projects? So you want to make sure you're not missing those steps. But that's really ultimately what it gets back to, is making sure that there's quality in everything that we're doing from a delivery perspective. And that's really what it's all about, and making sure that we're holding ourselves to that standards. And when you have tough times of where you're like, gosh, I've got to be the copy clerk for the week, just understand it's a stepping stone with your career path. right? And have that patience. And that was so important to me to learn as I got throughout that process, because those tough jobs, those grunt work jobs, is just what I had to do in order to get to those level of successes and understand the process so I could ultimately teach others as well.
So something I keep hearing as a consistency in what it is that you're saying is, number one, know that it's a stepping stone. You have to control your own vision for your future, right? And the second piece is, you just did everything you did to the highest degree with excellence. And that had a way of developing your skills and attracting more opportunity.
Yes, exactly. And that's another one of our values, right, is pursue excellence. So pursue excellence and wired to win. Those are both technical aspects of who we are as an organization. And you're going to hear that a lot here. It's actually in our Ryan Pride system, which is our recognition system. It's tied to our values, one being pursue excellence. And it's probably the one I use the most is, for me to reconcile, if I was to, Jillian in the back of the room, who helped me with my presentation today, recognizing her excellence here would be in pursuing excellence, living those values at Ryan to make sure that we're delivering upon our purpose and everything and every aspect of what we do. So important.
I love that. Excellence, definitely a great key value in everything that I've seen in working with the team so far. It exudes, it reverberates. It's something that I personally experienced here. So that's awesome to experience that in the culture.
Well, and they also heard this yesterday in our retreat last night. They were able to go to the Star and did a tour of the Star, and the CFO of the Cowboys came to talk to them as well. And that's one of account that I work with personally. And so for having Tom Walker come talking with you guys, I think that came through loud and clear about him and his experience with Ryan. So it was so fascinating for this group here to kind of hear directly from our clients about how we're doing and how we, our tax services and how we're saving them. Because it's not just the Cowboys, it's the Jones family interests. And there's so many aspects of that. So thankfully they got a firsthand experience in that last night too, talking to Tom.
So Ginny, just a few more questions before we wrap up the episode and turn things over to our audience here. So this is the internship group. So what do you think our interns should focus on in the first 0 to 3 years of their career here at Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I've already talked about before, because it's so critically important, is be the best at what you've been hired to do, understanding all of the systems, understanding the technical aspects. That's so key. Second to that is going to be having patience, but then having that curiosity, making sure that you're having that open communications with your manager. All of that is so critically important. And as you're finishing your educational journey, finish strong, right? Give it all that you can. As you take away too from your internship experience, go back and look at the curriculum and the courses that you're taking and say, is there something different that you could be taking in school that can add value to, your future employment here at Ryan or wherever you end up going? Right? So there's so many great takeaways. I can't wait. I'm so excited because I do try to visit with the interns at the end of their internship so I can hear from them about some of the ways that they actually picked up nuggets that will carry forward as well.
I think that's great advice. So a bit of a personal question here for you, because I know you advertise on your LinkedIn, wife and mother. So how do you balance being a high-powered executive and balancing with your family? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that is so important to me, and it's something that I changed my LinkedIn profile about a decade ago to add, sure, I'm Global President and COO at Ryan, and yes, I am a board member, and yes, I belong to a nonprofit that I contribute to in various ways. But to add wife and mother is so important because it's a part of who I am. And the way that I do that, it's interesting because you said the word balance. And at Ryan, we don't think of it as a balance because it will never be balanced, right? Your life will just, it would be lovely if that happened, don't get me wrong, but it ends up being a trade-off at times, and sometimes you end up getting to that balance situation, but oftentimes it's a plus and a minus. And when you have that plus or minus, you have to work at it. So for me, the secret to that, thankfully we have My Ryan, which is a flexible work environment. We've had that flexible work environment for about 15 years now. So it's not new to us to have a flexible work environment. We were actually a pioneer in that area. So for me, I have a flexible schedule. So if my son's got a game at 4, I make sure that I rearrange my schedule so I can go to his game at 4. but I'm going to still work my hours. I'm still going to maybe come back that night, work on a Saturday, work on a Sunday. I've still got to get my job done. So it's so incredibly important to do that. But for me, it's important that I make sure I manage my personal life. So that's what the whole thing is about, the wife and the mother aspect of that, is making sure that everyone understands that, yes, we're having to juggle it all. And for me too, I'm thankfully in a position where I can bring my family along to engage in things that I do as well, which is really nice. So thinking about the Ranger game that I did with the client this week, I was able to take my husband to that. And it actually worked out quite well because one of my clients is from Wisconsin, and my client's from Wisconsin, and they were able to talk about all of that kind of stuff too. So I'm intentional about bringing in family and being part of me and my work and what I do. And it's important that I represent that, right, as something that is something that, because it's a fabric of who I am as a person, and to me it's authentic.
Yeah, it's just, it's you're not separating the two, it's just your way of being, and there's a kind of an integration there.
Exactly, it's a way of being, it's part of who we are. Interestingly, we're taking a summer vacation to Amsterdam and Paris and to London. So I'm going to go to the Amsterdam office, and I got an email this morning because I asked them, I said, I can't wait to go to the Amsterdam office and see you guys, but we were going to do a boat tour, a canal tour, and I said, why don't we do a canal tour with the office? So some of the team members are going to come over on that Friday afternoon. We're all going to get on a boat, and we're going to get to know each other for 3 hours, because I'm going to do that anyway with my family. How cool is that to be able to have those local team members come and enjoy with that as well? And meld. So that's just the way that it works here. And for being here 32 years, think about it. I mean, I've got the Ryan family and I've got my family, and it all kind of mixes together. So it's an interesting way to do it. And I'll be in the London office for Ryan Shares Day. It's going to be the first time that I'll be missing it here at the food bank, which I'm really sad about. But I said, hey, let me know what you guys are doing in the London office, because we may want to go to do that. So if they're doing packing food or something else that's for the community, I'll have my Ryan Shares shirt and pop in and see what that's about. So I'm going to make it part of that trip as well.
So it sounds like you have many adventures ahead of you, and doing just incredible impacts in business and the community. So that's great.
Yeah.
Well, Ginny, final question here for you. The show is called Pathways to Success. How do you personally define what success is for you? Success for me is being content. Being content in all aspects. And you can tell I'm a hard charger with high goals. So being content is interesting for me in that regard. So for me, it's setting those goals and achieving those goals, whether it be professional success, personal success, family success. And I think those are interesting aspects of it when you think about it, those three aspects. So it's business success, you've got the personal, and you've got the family. And so as you think about those three aspects, it's being content with all of them. And there's work that goes into all three of those, right? It's not just about work. It's about making sure that you're investing in yourself and taking care of your own well-being, which is so critically important. And it was interesting, yesterday we had a Mosaic series. That's our DE&I effort, Ryan Mosaic. And yesterday we had a speaker come in to talk about stress and how to handle stress. So I was sure to listen to that. And so that's the well-being aspect of it, right? That's making sure that you're learning and you're curious and you're addressing it and finding those resources that you've got. So for me, it's about being content in all three areas of life: family, personal, and business. Being content in every area of life: family, personal, and business.
Yep.
Yeah. Ginny, this has been an incredible interview. This was well worth the wait. I walked away with a lot of great takeaways. I know our audience did as well. So this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for being on the show.
I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Ginny, if you would, go straight into this camera right here. Let us know how we can connect with you, support you, and support everything you're doing.
Sure. So you can catch me on LinkedIn. I'm engaged in there frequently. That is the best way to reach me. And that's it. That's the platform.
Okay. And we'll make sure to have all your contact information in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone else, thank you all for tuning in to the Pathways to Success. As always, make sure to subscribe, comment, and share. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Pathways to Success. Ginny Kissling, everyone.